Welcome to the WanderLearn Show. I'm your host, Tapon. In this episode, I interview Brendan Rousseau. There are 3 episodes where I'm going to be featuring him where we talk all about space and his new book that he has co-authored. And the name of the book is called Space to Grow. In the first episode, we talk about what is different in outer space today. In the second, we talk about space tourism. And in the third, we talk about the Kessler syndrome, which could doom us to stay on Earth. He's an amazing guy. He has an amazing pedigree. He is the strategy manager for the New Glenn rocket at Blue Origin. He went to Williams College, where he has a bachelor's in astronomy and economics. He went to Phillips, Exeter. He's a teaching fellow at Harvard Business School. He went to Booz Allen as a consultant. This guy's done quite a bit. Hope you enjoyed this 3-part interview with Brendan Rousseau. Now, one of the things that a lot of people who are on the show, who are watching this or are listening, they love travel and tourism and that kind of stuff and adventures and things like that. And obviously, space is the ultimate adventure. And there is talk about, of course, the perennial topic of having space hotels and things like that. It seems so far-fetched. And I remember, I think it was Tito was his name. He was the first space tourist, and he paid $20 million, and he went out to space. I think that was like 20 years ago or something like that. I think
absolutely, yeah.
In Russia. So that was the first moment of space tourism. But where do you see that going? Do you see us being there in 2030, 2040, 2050, 2060? When do you think a space hotel, Blue Origin, was sending up, like they had the Skywalker mannequin and they went up into space just to take people up into the outer reaches of space to experience weightlessness, see the curvature of the Earth, and then come back down. And that was proposed as one of the things that Blue Origins was thinking about doing. Where do they stand on that, and what are the future plans?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm impressed that you really know your space history. The Dennis Tito fact that's impressive. So for a lot of people, when they think about space, tourism is one of the obvious things. It's for all the astronauts who have come back from space, from NASA or from Russia, they have said that the experience of being up in space and seeing the curvature of the Earth, it's almost
the overview effect.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say there's Frank White. It was a great author, wrote a whole book on this, calling it the overview effect, that it seems to have a really pronounced and lasting effect on people's lives. So that's one of the really exciting things about when costs go down is you can do more things like this. It's not the application I spend the most time thinking about, but it is a really exciting one. And I'm so glad you mentioned the work that Blue Origin is doing on this. I'm proud that we have a vehicle called New Shepard. It launches out of West Texas. We continue to do tourism flights pretty routinely. It's super exciting, the reaction that folks have. We live stream them, so if people just look up New Shepard on YouTube or something, you can see these pretty incredible videos. We send folks up.
William Shatner went up.
Yes, he did.
Captain Kirk, and he was like 90-something years old when he went up. It was amazing. It was just so iconic, and then Jeff Bezos himself was there when he returned to congratulate him. That was a great thing. So, how much does it cost right now in order to just have that kind of space flight nowadays?
Sure. It's not cheap necessarily because there's a lot of demand, and rockets are still a tricky thing. So I will say if folks are interested, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to connect you with some of the folks.
But we're looking at around $100,000 or less.
More than that. It's more than that.
Okay,
more than that. So we're working on bringing the cost down. But if folks are interested in seeing what this looks like, we actually recently announced that on our next flight, we're going to have an all-female flight coming up soon. 6 new astronauts, and one of them is Katy Perry. So I think there'll be a lot of folks who are interested in that, maybe from a different generation. But it's super exciting. So you're talking about timelines. Timelines are one of the really tricky things in space to predict because, of course, we all are so eager to kind of bring these things in. And I would personally love to go to space. But it's tricky because the way I think of it is, what are the next steps that we need to unlock to be able to make that happen? And I think the first step is you need to increase the amount of launch activity that we have so that you can bring costs down. Of course, one of the biggest trends that we've had today, one of the biggest technical innovations has been reusable rockets. For the longest time, they've been one and done. The Apollo missions that everyone's familiar with, that giant Saturn V vehicle, you launch it once, you spend ungodly sums of money building it, but that was the way that it was done. The innovation that SpaceX and now Blue Origin are bringing to the industry is reusable launch vehicles with the kind of North Star vision of turning space flight into something like air travel, where you launch it, you bring it back, you return the hardware, refurbish it, and then you're good to go. So that takes some time. So I think we're still a decade or more away from the time in which the cost of a flight to Australia or to Europe from the United States is comparable to the cost of going to space. But it's something that certainly I'm very excited about. And if we don't have folks like SpaceX or Blue Origin or others pushing to bring those costs down, then it won't happen. So
But there is a company that is trying to have a space hotel at some point, right?
Yeah. So, you mentioned a little bit on the last podcast where one of the really interesting things that's happening now is because there's been all this excitement in launch and more launches, that it's grown by almost like an order of magnitude, the number of launches we have per year as opposed to just a couple decades ago. Folks are looking at it and saying, well, let's create new commercial space stations. Let's have not only tickets to space on these launch vehicles, but also destinations for all kinds of activities when you get there. Research and development is one of the biggest applications that we think will be really exciting, like Varda, like I just mentioned. But also tourism is one of them too. So I think first and foremost, the companies that are developing these commercial space stations are thinking about their anchor customers, which are NASA and big companies that are maybe interested in doing research on those platforms. But also, we've seen some hints that they're keeping the door open for some tourist activities. So there's one commercial space station company, Axiom, that if you look at their plans, it's very focused. They're allowing research and all these things. But then they've also partnered with Hilton to design their crew accommodation spaces and all these things. So it makes me really excited when I see that companies are focused on the here and now and closing business cases, but also leaving the door open to some of these kind of further out possibilities.
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting prospect. I think also, but it's going to cost millions and millions of dollars per tourist to either, because obviously if it's costing more than six figures to just have a joyride up and down to the edge of the space, it's to spend a couple of days in a hotel, floating hotel up there is going to cost millions. Another crazy idea would be to just have ships that go to the dark side of the moon, the far side of the moon, and then on the way back, and that would be like, say, a 3-day or 6-day or 1 week epic trip. That's going to cost many millions of dollars, probably $100 million or more, I imagine, per passenger.
It'd be a hell of a joyride.
Right, but there are a few billionaires out there who might be willing to part with 10% of their net worth in order to have the trip of the lifetime, especially if they're like 6 years old or more. So
one thing it's such a good point you just made. I want to hit on it. So one of the really exciting things is that we have seen private individuals not only buying tickets, but in some cases encouraging these companies to push the envelope on, pursuing these like human applications that maybe aren't right down the middle of their business plan. But we've seen individuals come out and put some of their money down and say, hey, I think that human space exploration is super important. I want to create the opportunity for others to do this as well and shape programs in that way. So specifically, I'm talking about Jared Isaacman, who created the Polaris program at SpaceX. It's a program that's entirely focused on private human spaceflight, so allowing quote unquote normal people to go into space. And they've done some real pioneering work there where they, in their most recent mission, they entered into a SpaceX capsule and they took it not just in the traditional low Earth orbit realm, but they went through some parts of the Van Allen belt. They went further out into space than any astronauts have gone since Apollo 17. So that's real. It's private individuals doing real history-making stuff. And the intent of that program is not just to have a fun joyride and get some good footage, but really to encourage companies to develop the tech and develop the processes to push humans further out and make sure that the private sector, as it pushes forward, is meeting those goals as well. And a lot of folks are really excited about that because Jared Isaacman, the gentleman who is spearheading that program, has been nominated to be our next NASA administrator. So our next NASA administrator is someone who's very keen on some of these. Potentially our next NASA administrator, someone who's very keen on these ideas.
And that ends this episode of the WanderLearn podcast, where we explore travel, technology, and transformation. If you'd like to see the show notes with links to what we've talked about, go to wanderlearn.com and click on this episode. If you'd like to connect with me, just remember Tapon. That's my first initial and my last name. Tapon is always my social media username. My website is ftapon.com. Do you want to leave me an anonymous voicemail where you can make a comment or ask a question? Then go to speakpipe.com/ftapon. Furthermore, if you'd like to get rewarded for supporting my projects, then go to patreon.com/ftapon. That's where you can pick up some remarkable rewards for as little as $2 a month. Now, 5 quick favors. Number 1, subscribe to the WanderLearn podcast. 2, download it. 3, share it. 4, review it. And 5, sign up for my newsletter at wanderlearn.com. Our theme music was composed by Eric Stratman. This is Francis Tapon, encouraging you to wander and learn.